preserve our own worth and defend our own voice, which lets the true market emerge. The strength of the design lies in each of our participation, since we are the node to channel our energy end to end. As we claim responsibility to uphold our own rights, we radiate the power that brings our truth into light.
Hey everyone, and welcome to Bitcoin Homeschoolers. Thank you, Tip NZ, for the music. Education through music is a really wonderful idea, so check out Tip's work at tipnz.com. And a second announcement, we're giving away a free PDF of my book called Teaching Through Games, 21 Bitcoin Lessons. You can go to freemarketkids.com/pages/21, or just go to freemarketkids.com and a little pop-up will show on your screen. So about today's show, if you've ever worried whether you can handle homeschooling, you're going to be really, really inspired by Leigh Ann and Jason Sellers' story. They homeschool their 6 kids, which is incredible. And wow, did they have stories. I debated a little bit about the introductory discussion and some of the kids coming in and out, but I left it all in to be authentic. It really helps show who they are. They're wonderful people. Tali and I are looking forward to getting to know them better. And with that, here is our discussion with the inspirational Leigh Ann and Jason Sellers.
Let me just tell a quick story, Leigh Ann. So this is how I was thinking about starting. Jason and I are in El Salvador, and we're at one of these pre-event things before adopting started. Mm-hmm. And I don't usually walk up to someone and say, "Hey, do you homeschool?" I don't just do that to anybody. But somehow we got onto that conversation, and normally we tell people we have 4 kids. They go, "Oh, wow," right? Because on both sides of our family, we're the family unit that has the most kids. And then Jason just complete trump card. He goes, "Let me show you this picture," and it's got your 6 kids. And was it Halloween, Jason? What was the occasion where you had all the special shirts on there?
So we went to the Halloween party in down near Atlanta.
Yeah.
And we wanted to dress up as something that would be matching for all of us. And so she didn't go, and our little now 1-year-old didn't go. He wasn't 1-year-old yet back then in October. But let's see. But yeah, myself and my 5 oldest. All dressed up in orange shirts with a white symbol, like an icon on the front, and then a matching word on the back. So we had, and these words were, listeners may catch on to what this is, things like scarcity, immutability, divisibility, portability. There were all these different qualities of sound money. And so it was like, yeah, there's 6 of us. Well, there's one, we didn't do fungibility. Because I know there's like the book, The Seventh Property, talks about that. But I was portability because I was the driver, driving everybody down there. But we were joking that if all of us had been able to go, then our now 1-year-old would be portability, because he is just crawling and scooching all over the place really fast. Mm-hmm. And then both she and I together would be fungibility. Because if you have one, you have the other.
You can get the other one. Nice.
Very cool.
Well, it's so cool though. Six kids is awesome. We originally wanted to have 6, and so I just can't imagine the dynamics in the house. We had a little tighter shot group than you.
They were pretty tight.
Not with a 1-year-old, they're not.
Well, mine is the 1-year-old.
Yeah, we had five between 17 and 10.
Yeah, 5 and 7 years.
So 5 really close, 1 very distant.
Yeah,
right. If they're really close,
yeah.
You're going to Costco or wherever you go, and you're just going, I need size whatever diapers, this diaper. You get it all at once.
Yeah.
And then when you're done with diapers, you're like, I never want to do that again. But now, if you have a break, like that's the part I can't relate to, because now you're like, oh man, like I gotta redo that.
I feel like it would be more fun because you would have more help, and you would have all the lessons you learned from the other 5 that you didn't know when the 5 were little. So I think I would have had fun with that. We had 4 kids in 4 years.
5 years. 5 years.
Not quite 5. It was less than 5. Thank you very much. It was
I'm
a
going back to
year.
the calendar.
Mommy knows.
Okay, listen, it was less than 5.
Wait. This is their story.
But
Sorry,
okay, yes, but anyway.
Here's where I'd like to go though. So, where did you guys start? Who had the idea for homeschooling? Did you do it with your oldest? Did you do it all the way through? Because homeschooling one kid, some people might be thinking, "Wow, that's really challenging." You have 6, so let's help us get inside your mind. You have fungibility, whichever one of you this was. Who initiated the idea to homeschool? And like that's to me is fascinating.
Yeah.
6 kids homeschooling like this.
Yeah. So I think it was a little bit after we were married. Jason started talking about homeschooling.
hello.
Yeah,
He's
that
a
it worked
star.
for him. He did it some when he was a teenager, right? Early
Oh,
teenager.
baby's
Our
not
1-year-old
happy.
has just joined the call.
His first podcast.
Yes.
Yeah. So Jason suggested it to me.
Oh,
And I had been public schooled the whole way, and I'm thinking if I'm trying to homeschool and teach them as much as I learned in public school, it's going to be too much. It's like I can't do that, especially if we're going to have multiple kids. How am I going to do that? Because they're all going to be learning different things at different times, and that's just going to be too much for me because I would want to do it and teach them everything that you know that that I had learned. And I'm like, I'm not sure I could do that. But Jason was patient with me, and he kept on, just very encouraging it every once in a while. He warmed me up to the idea very well, and I was like, you know what? It's not going to hurt to try it with our first.
Mm-hmm.
And so we started off basically like from the beginning with our youngest, and I started.
Oldest now.
Or we are our oldest. He was the youngest.
Yeah, who's your only?
Yeah, I started learning about different resources, finding different things, and just eased into it. And it kind of just took off, and I never really considered after that not doing it because it was so nice. It was so nice getting to spend so much time with our kids, and that we were the ones who were having that opportunity to teach them, and that closeness in our family that I feel like I didn't have in my family, and Jason didn't have in his. And so we really have a very close-knit family with very strong connections because of being able to homeschool. Has been a great blessing for us.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and if I can add to that real quick, it was from our first child, and early on, you're teaching them things just basic things, how to share, what colors were, and different numbers and letters and stuff. Starting with the super simple things. Don't touch the stove; it's hot. And okay, now it's time to clean up your room, and it just built up from there till. Okay, this is how you later on. Here's how you safely search for information on the internet. And later on, okay, well, here's this website. Learn. So we found some really good free homeschool resources online, and now you use that. And when he was young, when all of them were young, I looked forward to the day when they would be teaching me things that I didn't know. And our 17 will be 18 in April. 17-year-old, he knows so many more things, especially about computer programming that I don't know. He's like, oh yeah, I know a little bit of C++ and HTML and JavaScript, and I'm like, I know a little HTML, and I wouldn't be able to do it right now. I'd have to kind of refresh my mind, but and so it's just if you start small. And you build it from there, and it just flowed really naturally as things came up, as situations and opportunities to learn things just came up every day.
So you were pretty confident. It sounds to me you were pretty confident when you went into this. You knew this was going to work. Like when you said, "Hey,
Yeah,
let's
I was
homeschool."
pretty confident. I just see it as parenting. I personally, in my mind, I don't separate parenting from homeschooling. They are really
Beautiful.
one and the same. We have conversations around the dinner table about politics and about history, about religion, not just our own, but other religions of the world, and about Bitcoin, of course. Uh,
Yeah.
and I mean, and we go on talking about lots of things, and I value their input. It's not just me, unless it's about Bitcoin, then it's me talking about it. But when it's a lot of other things, they are giving me their input. We're doing like our family scripture study, and our second child, our 15-year-old, he almost 16, but he inherited my gift of gab. He talks a lot, just like I do, and and so he will give his input all the time during our scripture study, and the vast majority of things are I'm just blown away with. Like, I didn't teach you that. You're getting this on your own. Thank you. I'm taking notes, by the way, because you're teaching me.
Right.
And that is such a gratifying thing to happen when what's the line from The Office? Well, it seems the turntables have.
Yeah. The tables are turned over backwards. I mean, so the relationships, though, Tali and we've talked about this a lot. This reoccurring theme of that parent-child bond, and not having that separated. Did you guys have the support? I mean, it's easy now to say that. When we first started homeschooling, it was a challenge communicating to our respective sides of the family what we were doing, and it wasn't as easy to tell them some of these benefits. Did you guys have the support? Even though you went through public, was your family, Leigh Ann, okay with
You go first.
with your decision?
There were. It was kind of a mix. My dad every once in a while will quiz the kids to see what they know.
Trust and don't trust, verify. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he has his standard that he expects them to know. But it's interesting how much they know that he doesn't. So, so they might not have their multiplication tables memorized when he wants them to rattle them off. But they have all these insights about, like, for example, our oldest with computer programming that he's taught himself that he can go into his own occupation with it and take it into working right out of being an adult age, because he already has all that training that he's been able to gain just through having the ability to teach himself, which is I think is an invaluable skill to have, is the ability to learn on your own and to research and to find answers to your questions, to problem solve, and all those kinds of things that I think homeschooling really encourages. Whereas what I remember from public school, it was a lot of regurgitation of information. You memorize and you regurgitate it. And that's kind of the mindset I think my dad has. That it's like, okay, can they regurgitate the information I expect?
He sees regurgitation, the ability to regurgitate, and actual education as one and the same, when they could not be more different. And so meanwhile, on my side, I was partly homeschooled. I did kind of a hybrid homeschool public school thing during half of sixth grade, so when I was 11, turning 12, and then all of ninth grade, was 14, turning 15. And I did a hybrid, like I go to public school for things like choir, and in sixth grade I went there for science class, and I think some foreign language classes or things like that. But all the rest of the time, beginning of the day and at the end of the day, I was at home. But I was pulled out of school. My mom pulled me out of school halfway through. There were several reasons why. I was dealing with a lot of depression and anxiety. They were diagnosing me as ADHD and stuff. My mom was like, "No, come on." But also, I just was not learning well in that kind of environment. All the pressure from performing in front of everybody else and being there in these nice orderly rows and stuff. I need to go about these things at my own pace. And then I took a test when I was in sixth grade, and it was found that I had like a second grade reading level at that time. So my mom pulled me out and said, "Okay, no, we are going to hammer in this ability to read and getting really good reading comprehension." So I was starting at like 7 in the morning with school while my siblings were getting ready to go to school. I would be sitting down starting. I would then, middle of the day, go to school for a class and lunch and come back. My mom would then pick me back up, and I was gonna say, oh yeah, and then I would continue working till roughly like 10 p.m. At night, and do that not Monday through Friday, Monday through Saturday. And what summer vacation? There between sixth and seventh grade, there was basically no summer vacation, because yeah, I had a lot of catching up to do, a lot of things that I kind of fallen back behind on. Then in ninth grade, before that started, I opted into to homeschool. I said, "Hey, Mom, could we do that homeschool thing again?" Because I did seventh and eighth grade back in public school, and like I'm kind of missing that. I'd rather be back in homeschool. But I did a hybrid thing. Well, homeschool was such a positive experience for me, that's why I started to gradually talk her into it. And then sorry, I keep losing my train of thought. What you're saying? Oh, that's right. And so when we started doing it, actually, my mom was okay with when we told her, "Oh yeah, we're planning on homeschooling our kids," or we're starting to now. But she was okay with it. But at the same time, she was a math teacher at that time. She wasn't earlier, but she had become a math teacher in a public school and had become very positive towards the idea of public school, and was kind of encouraging us, like, well, maybe do homeschool at first, and then move maybe in middle school, high school, move them into homeschool. I kind of shrugged and said, maybe. That didn't happen though. But then she's gradually warmed up to it now. She doesn't teach anymore, but yeah, so she's warmed up to it as well.
Yeah, and I think even with the difficulties on my side, over and over again within my family and outside of our family, people we meet, people we get to know, our friends and stuff, they compliment us on how smart our kids are. I think part of it is just being able to communicate in an intellectual way is a skill that they've developed from being homeschooled as well, that people just are like compliment us on all the time. They're so well behaved, and they're so smart.
Well, I think, I mean, just the example with your dad quizzing them. One of the things that Tali and I observed is homeschool kids, not all, I get it, I make generalities, but generally speaking, homeschool kids are able to have a conversation with anybody of any age, because they are constantly around people of all ages. And plus, we never baby talked them anyway. We always treated them, we talked to them the way we're talking to you now. But they're around their siblings at different ages, or around other homeschool kids at different ages, versus public school, where you are segregating people by their age arbitrarily. That's the way it is. Then all of a sudden they're out, and now they're interacting with an adult or something else, and they haven't been spending the time to learn how to socialize. So when we look back on our experience and people compliment us on our kids, I think a huge part of that is just that they don't know any different. All they knew is this is how everybody talked to each other. And you learned, if you were disrespectful to someone, it didn't matter what their age was, you corrected that. And so I think there's something unnatural with the way we segregate kids by age in schools. And I think one of the outcomes of homeschooling is the opposite of that, where people can actually hold a conversation. They can do it at work, they can do it at school, they can do it in activities. And so
well, I'll just add to that. I think part of the reason that public school kids have, compared to homeschool kids, have more difficulty conversing is because most of the day they're not allowed to converse. They go into a group setting where they're expected to be quiet. And then they're also taught shame if they ask a stupid question. Even though the teacher would say there are no stupid questions, you're just not going to ask a question you think is stupid. So there's no conversation during learning either. It's a very one-sided, I'll teach you, be quiet and absorb, and then don't talk to your classmates because that's disruptive. And in between classes, don't be late, go to your locker, hurry up, get yourself and go to. So most of the day, they're not talking. They're not having the opportunity to express their ideas continually, to expand their ability to translate thought into words. Whereas homeschool kids, you might have 6 sitting at a table. They will not be shy about yelling out a question if they're in the middle of doing their assignments, right? Because my kids wouldn't.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's like blur right out. Yeah. So I think also, our homeschool kids just get more practice.
What, are you still in the socialization part? Or
it's not socialization per se. I think it's just the opportunity to practice translating thought into words, because that is a process.
So it's just they're better. They learn to be more communicative, right? Yeah.
They just have more practice time.
More practice time.
Yeah, I think so.
Well, I'll tell you what.
Yeah, they're allowed to.
Right.
Yeah. So let me ask you another thing too. There's
I
another
think
thing that's on my mind about the time at school, and that is if someone gets into flow, you're basically saying you have to be in flow right now, 45 minutes on math. It didn't matter if your sleep cycle's out of whack or you just had a bunch of sugary snacks. It doesn't matter. Then you're going to break that, and now you have to be focused only on English or whatever the next subject is, whenever the bells go off in schools.
Right.
And so my question for you is, it seems to me in the home environment, I want to see what your experience was. In a home environment, you can allow the kids, you can say you're going to learn math, right? You may mandate they learn math, unless you're doing unschooling. You can say there's certain subjects you're going to learn. But you can let them learn it at a different time of day, a different time of the week. And if you happen to be in flow, you finally got there, you can stay there. Guess what? Because that next subject you could just push off to a different time. So I think another benefit of what seems like a lack of structure in the home, not having that regiment, the battle rhythm of these bells going off, actually allows students to go deeper and learn better when they are on the subjects. So what's been your experience?
Right.
How did you guys choose curriculum? How did you guys manage time? I mean, tell us what you guys think.
Yeah, we definitely do more of an unschooling kind of approach.
Oh, really? Okay.
One thing though, kind of going off what you were just saying there, a thought I had was, as much as I like this movie I'm going to reference here, there's a part in the movie The Matrix where Neo is plugged into to the computer and they're uploading all this information straight into his head, and he's all, I know kung fu. And I think that's even before The Matrix, for decades or so, a century or so before The Matrix ever came out, that was the idea. But like, oh, if it were only possible that we could just upload information into our minds, and we would call that learning. But the thing is, he was able to essentially regurgitate kung fu. He was able to regurgitate all this information, but he had no practice with it. It had only been one direction, going into his brain, nothing going out from his own mind, which is another way that we learn. And so, when there's that, like, no, I don't care what kind of flow you're in. You're having stuff come in and go out, and you're just going. No. You need to now move on. That was science. Now we're doing history, and have to put a stop to that flow and move to this other thing. And I think it's extremely detrimental, and it's not the way the mind works. It never has. And so I think allowing kids to have that scenario, or that what's the word I'm looking for here? That setting, I guess, where they can receive and give, and at their pace. And maybe they're not quite ready to give yet, so they're like, go on. I'm still listening. I'm thinking, and the gears are still turning. They're not ready to give yet because I don't feel that confidence yet. But then something clicks, and they go, "Oh, you mean kind of like this?" Blah 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 blah, and they start building, and they start doing, and they start teaching, and they start learning, so like actually learning so much more.
Mm-hmm.
So back to your other question though about what style we do. We very unschooling kind of method. Our main goal with all of our kids, and now with this 1-year-old that we have, is get them to the point where they can teach themselves. So help them learn how to read is kind of the first major milestone. There's a bunch of other smaller milestones in there, but when they can read, and they're like, I really wanted to learn about this thing. Um, about anything, science or history or anything else like that. We'll be like, boom, here you go. We'd be happy to read it with you if you'd like. But sometimes, oh man, there have been times we would wake up in the morning and like we should be up before the kids are. Their lights on. What's going on? There was one point, actually, it was one point late at night. So it wasn't in the morning. It was late at night. We were getting ready for bed. We already put the kids to bed. But now we notice there's a light on in the stairwell. We went to the stairwell, opened up the door, and looked down. Like four of our kids, of their five older kids, all sitting on the stairwell, all on a different step with a book open of their own choosing. That
Oh,
they
that's
were
a
just
picture.
sitting there.
I hope you
Yeah,
took a
this is like
picture.
11 p.m. or something crazy like that. Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
you got a picture of it.
Oh,
Didn't you take a picture?
Oh, I don't know. It was several years ago though, but I should dig it up. But yeah, and I was like, okay, this is like the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. Never mind, guys. I know it's late. I put you to bed a couple hours ago. Carry on. And I just
Yeah. You ever let the kids
because they
teach
were
others?
in that flow.
They were in the
Yeah,
flow.
yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
nice.
and,
Did they ever? You ever let
they
them
were
teach
learning
each
those
other?
things.
If one has
Yeah.
a flow with
They
one, they want to
they
tell the
absolutely.
others. They do that too.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, and yeah, there are a lot of times when one of our middle kids will be working on some kind of project, like creating a game on the computer or that kind of thing. They need help with something. I'm like, well, go ask one of your older brothers who knows how to do it. And they will. They'll ask them, and then they'll get the help that they need. And so it's really awesome. It's like, well, I might not know this, but if I don't, and then you have other people around who might know, and then also there are all these other resources that we can point them to as well. So
Make your job easier
Yeah,
too.
and sometimes
kinda. Yeah. I'm sorry.
yeah,
Go ahead,
and to
Jason.
your point, sometimes it's just because we don't know that information, but we know that their oldest brother does. Uh, Sometimes though, it's I'm working, she's taking care of the baby, and that we just can't at that moment, and there's other people who can then help. But really, what this comes down to, taking it again to a Bitcoiny kind of reference here, all Bitcoiners recognize the term. Well, not all, but a lot of Bitcoiners recognize the term time preference. That when you have this low time preference mentality or approach to homeschooling, you work a whole lot when they're really, really young. Get them to understand how to read, how to do math, understand the basis of science and basis of history and things, just these basics. Now they have a little taste. It's like they've taste tested everything, and they know now how to get more of the thing that they want. And they're like, "Ooh, I want a lot more of that, please, and a lot more of that." So like our third son has gone, I want a lot more of that aerospace engineering. And he actually just said to me, he wants to look into becoming a pilot and stuff like that. He wants a lot more of that kind of stuff. History, not so much. And yeah, all those kind of things. And then, thanks, I understand the basics now. But putting a lot of that work in first early on makes it so that it just opens up every opportunity for them through the later years of their life. And by early on, I mean like how long will it take for a kid to really learn how to read and start getting interested able to and interested in reading nonfiction books. I mean, they might still be like 8, 9, 10, something like that, before like really diving into nonfiction, and that's kind of self-guided learning. So self-guided, but we are still overseeing it all, and every day, talking to them with them about it. It's like I said earlier, it's a great opportunity for us to learn a lot of great things, and so we're always being their guides, their I don't know, advocates, and kind of walking them through that whole process of learning, especially when it comes to those kind of things that like we didn't know anything about this, but now we can. Now we can learn from them and learn with them.
Yeah. Well, okay, help me understand. We did not unschool. I like the idea where they follow their passion and they do things. On the other hand, I have some strong opinions about things that should be taught. You can get into money literacy. You can get into whatever it is that you want to do. So how do you guys balance that? Are there some things that you really want them to go and they haven't selected it on their own, but so I think there's a spectrum on the unschooling to structure. So help us. Where are you guys on that?
yeah, So that's definitely true. A lot of times I'll tell people when I say unschooling, I'm like, yeah, that might give you the wrong idea about what we actually do. We don't let them just run around outside all day, although that can be beneficial as well sometimes.
Like when it snows,
But
like today it did.
yeah,
Yes.
so I usually say it's like an organized unschooling. So we do have a different learning resources that we pull from. But then they have a lot of freedom to choose when they want to do it and which resources they prefer. We'll see which ones they gravitate toward and they're enjoying, and then we'll do those. If we see that there's a gap in the things that they're learning, that they need a bridge, and then we'll help them to find that bridge and get more involved with helping them to learn those things. A lot of times when they learn is dependent on when they're ready. And so we'll say, well, we need to do this, maybe even we need to work on this today or this week. So I'll tell them, just let me know when you're ready, and then we'll work on that. And sometimes I've seen, like with math, for example, we'll do one set of math problems, and then they'll ask, "Can I do some more?" Because they had so much fun with those, as they're enjoying it. They're in the zone, and so they want to do some more. And so we'll continue with some more. So it really makes it nice because there will be some things they might get ahead on, and then sometimes there'll be things they're behind on, but in the end, it all evens out. I think, like for us, that's what I've seen. And it kind of goes along with Maria Montessori's a philosophy that you let the children explore on their own, but when you see there's something that they need, and then you guide them to that need so that they can have that need filled.
Yeah.
So very heavily guided, yet still giving them a lot of freedom.
They have choice.
Where I thought you were actually going to go, a lot of freedom of choice. Yeah. Where I thought you were going to go actually is something that she's been doing for years with all of them, not since the very beginning, but so for many years, is the process of going through history by way of literature. Do you want to talk some about that?
I can. So this one goes along some with the Charlotte Mason, what she taught about living books, teaching from living books.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which means books that aren't like textbooks that are devoid of, story and life and meaning. So I guess the way we do it is we'll read literature through history, and we start at early on. We'll use the Bible as well as lots of other novels, literature, poems, and we even did a lot of it's historical fiction. Some is nonfiction. And one book that I really liked we did was a stories of art. So we did an art history type, and it's this one book that's really nice, that has these stories of different pieces of art, so you get familiar with art through history as well, and the development of art and the stories along with that, with different artists, and get to know them. And so you can do that. I think our minds a lot of times will think chronologically anyway, because we are people, in time. And so teaching that way, and you can also teach, music and science and basically everything you can teach through like chronologically, so that your children are learning it in that kind of natural way that other people through time have learned it as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the power of stories come up. I don't know how many times that you can use that. And do you remember the name of that? The name of the art book? You're fine. The other thing I like about it, though, is that
never mind. I have it right next to me.
Jason, while she's getting that, there it is. Okay, Vincent's Starry Night.
Oh, I love that.
Starry Night.
Perfect. That is
and other
so
stories.
cool.
A children's history of art.
And it says Michael Bird. I'm trying to read the trying to read the screen.
Yeah, Michael Bird. Yeah.
Yeah, Michael Bird.
I'll put a
That's
link in the
really
I'll put a link in
cool.
the show notes. You know what the other thing I like about it? Well,
Yeah,
first of all, I like
that's
art, so I think that's really cool. But I also think you guys are highlighting one of the benefits when you take control. And sorry, Leigh Ann, I got to go down the Bitcoin thing. I'm going to use all kinds of Bitcoin. When you self custody parenting and you're taking control of this, you can do a lot of things, and the kids get to learn things that are not part of a state curriculum, right? I mean, I just imagine you go there, and the teachers and the administrators have an incentive that kids in a public school do well on standardized tests. So guess what? They spend a lot of time on whatever you need for that. Versus, hey kids, we're going to pick up Starry Night and we're going to tell stories about art or fill in the blank, aerospace, something else, and letting kids explore topics that are outside. So I like what you said before. You have the base. If you learn how to read and you learn numbers and you learn your basics, you open this amazing universe for the kids to explore things that they otherwise wouldn't be able to explain. So yeah, and the power story, very, very powerful. Were you going to say
One way I
something?
like to think of it is, imagine you, and I didn't come up with this analogy myself. I heard this once in a video I was watching many, many years ago. But imagine you just shown up at a play, except you're backstage and your time to come on stage is like in 5 minutes, but you have no idea what's happened previously in the play. So someone backstage is like has to quickly fill you in, quickly say, okay, well, she's in love with him, but he killed that guy, but this guy is actually saying this, and so he's really angry at that guy, and quickly fill in the plot to then get you ready to go on stage and perform. That's what parenting, parenthood, parenting children and homeschooling is. You're quickly, over roughly 18 years, it can be shorter than that, but over a period of years, you are preparing your children to go out there into the world. That's the ultimate point, so they can be competent adults and act there on stage, and hopefully direct this play that we're all in to go in a nicer direction than it already is.
Yeah.
And just ever so a little bit, but you first have to inform them about everything. How did the play, what's happening now, which they can see, how did it get here? How did it get to this point? And what does that thing mean? Why is this person on TV saying this thing? What is this thing, the internet? And what is this this Bitcoin thing? Which my
Well, I'm
1-year-old.
glad you brought up
whenever he
that
sees
because
that-
I actually I wanted to poke this subject a little bit, even though I'm guessing it's not. So, can you, for the audience, this be kind of a little of a transition here, Jason? Maybe start with you. What you do, just the high level stuff, what you're doing, and then maybe you can touch on where you are, Leigh Ann, on the orange pilling journey, and are you tolerating this? Are you incorporating this into your schooling? So, touch on the Bitcoin thing.
Okay, actually,
Touch on.
no.
She's gonna take out a little timer on you. You get 30
Yeah,
seconds.
really. Well, our 1-year-old is now looking at me because he heard the magic word Bitcoin.
Oh.
And he just heard it again. He's looking at me like, oh, I know what that is. Every time he sees one of the Bitcoin symbol, he wants to reach out and touch it and poke it and stuff. He loves. I think it's early on. There was the contrast of orange and white. I think that's really what it was. But then he sees this symbol all the time. Daddy has it on shirts, and he has stickers on his computer, and this must be something important. He's just one. He doesn't understand yet. But so I guess a little bit about my story. So discovered Bitcoin went down the Bitcoin rabbit hole, I should say, in mid 2015. So at the time, our 5th child, our only daughter, was 1. So just like our little son right here. And let's see. And then it was a few months after that when I was like, you know what? Let's start moving some of their savings into Bitcoin. I think that would be really good for them. And so pretty much since late 2015, maybe early 2016, all of our kids have been 100% in Bitcoin. And over the years, if they get any money, they immediately want to exchange it into Bitcoin.
They want to, or you
So
force
they
them?
are.
Like, was it?
Oh no, they want to.
They want to.
They yeah. I even double checked with them. You sure you don't want to keep any of that for spending? They're like, I don't have any plans to spend that in the next like year or whatever. So may as well have it as Sats. Um, they okay. So here's a story. My now 10-year-old daughter. She was 4 or 5 at this point. She didn't really understand what was the big deal about Bitcoin. Why was I talking about it all the time? And oh yeah, we were also sorry. Side note to the side note. We were we do family scripture study every night, and almost every single night for a while there was something brought up in like a Bible story or something that I'd be like, that's just like what Satoshi said. And basically, in other words, they're talking about time preference here and things like that. Oh, this is kind of don't trust verify and all these things. I was talking all these connections to it, and I was getting eye rolls and groans from everyone. Um, but it was still good, I think. Anyway, though, so my daughter asked me at one point, so what's the big deal about this? And so I came up with an analogy to explain Bitcoin to her. She really, really loved, just like our 1-year-old now, really, really loved having a banana every morning. One of her favorite fruits was a banana. Well, fun thing about bananas is, you can buy them green, then they get riper, they get more yellow, and then they start getting spotty, and then they start getting all brown everywhere, and then they start like really molding and rotting.
That's a fun thing. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that is a fun fact about bananas. Yeah. Anyway, it worked really well to make a connection between Bitcoin and fiat. So I told her, imagine there was a new kind of banana. But this new kind, I think I called them something like super bananas or something. I don't know. Where imagine this kind of banana, you get it and it's green. And if you peel it and eat it right then, it doesn't taste all that great. It's kind of firm and stuff. But if you wait longer, it turns more yellow. If you wait longer, maybe there'll be a couple little spots just showing you it's kind of sweet there, but it only gets better. It never turns brown. It never rots. It will only get better and better and better. So there's never any point where the amount that's getting better kind of levels off. No, it continuously, exponentially just gets better and better and better every day, week, month, year that you store it. So then I asked her to imagine that. Her eyes got really wide. Wow, that'd be so amazing.
Super banana.
So I said, oh, yeah. So I asked her, when would you ever eat one of those bananas? And she said, well, I suppose only if I really needed to. If I didn't have any regular bananas, but yeah, I would save it for as long as I could. I said, okay, great. There's another question I asked her. I forget now. Oh, actually, sorry, that was the second question. The first question I asked her was, how many of those super bananas would you want? And she said, oh, as many as I can get. So okay, great. Then I asked, when would you eat them? Like, well, I guess only if I really needed to. Third question I asked her was, how many, and this is the kicker, how many regular bananas can I give you in exchange for you giving me one super banana? And she was like, then she thought, infinite? No, I would never give you any, no matter what. And I'm like, very good girl, you understand Bitcoin. Bitcoins are super bananas. Dollars and all of the fiats are the regular bananas. They get old, they rot, they lose their value. The longer you hold Bitcoin, the sweeter and brighter and better it gets. And her eyes just lit up. She's like, I want all the Bitcoin. I'm like, yes, good job, girl. Yeah, and so that's when she understood it. Her 4 older brothers, I had already kind of didn't explain it that same way, but you can explain it similarly. Oh, sorry, 1-year-old slipping here. Okay, he's fine. Yeah, and so I don't have to tell them, hey, you should switch from dollars to Bitcoin. No, there's a saying. I don't want this to give away to any listeners about our religious upbringing, but there's a saying in amongst other people who've grown up the same religious background as us, that you should teach correct principles and then let people govern themselves. And it's kind of a mantra that we've, or mantra, I don't call it a mantra, but yeah, a slogan kind of that we've taken to heart, that we teach our children correct principles. Just teach them the basic things and then let them govern themselves. We don't want to just totally all right, throw them in the swimming pool, let them swim. No, but still, yeah, you teach them those basic things. Or there's a quote we heard early on in our marriage: "Prepare the child for the path, not the path for the child." And so we we're still just doing that. So when it comes to Bitcoin, when it comes to anything else that comes up, recent political things and going on, um, we we teach what we believe are the correct principles, and then we invite them to A, verify if those are correct principles, and B, live those principles themselves.
That's great.
And so that's what we've done with Bitcoin and everything else.
I love the power of analogy. I want to use the super banana story.
I want some super bananas.
Well, I know you want the super bananas. I want to use the super banana story.
I know.
So-
I
so I
think,
just think
we
that's-
should share that with our kids. We should
Well,
share.
not just our kids. I think
Well, and everybody else, obviously.
we'll give Jason
I'm
credit.
gonna share that in my women's group.
Okay.
Well, we'll give you credit, but
Yes.
I think that
The sellers super bananas.
it's there's so much power in simplifying something
Yeah.
to something that people can relate,
Yeah.
and I think that there's a lot of lip service to that when you go onto the Twitterverse or whatever it is, and you have your meme of the day. But sometimes those short little memes, they can capture something really good. Now, I've never heard the Super Banana story till today, and I'm really thinking about naming this episode "Super Bananas." Right? It's like Leigh Ann, Jason.
Go for
and,
it.
Is Leigh Ann, Jason, and the
I
Super
think we
Bananas?
should.
It sounds like a what do you call it? It sounds like a pop star group or something,
Yeah.
right? You know, the Super Bananas.
Oh,
Maybe not. Okay, based on your face, but maybe not.
Or a comic book. Name of a
Comic book.
or something.
I really do. I
Yeah.
really,
To the
really,
rest-
really like that, and I like the philosophy of teaching them the principles and then they govern
Let them
them-
govern themselves. Yeah.
So
I think there's a lot of people who, even in the homeschooling arena, they try to control their kids so tightly because they are so full of fear of what's going on in the world. And when they decide to homeschool, that's their way of protecting their children. And then they raise their children like that. And as they grow up and they're getting ready to leave the nest, they are so full of fear. But the fact, I love what you said about teaching them the principles, because you can't protect them forever. They have to be able to discern themselves what they choose, which path, and how they walk the path. So I love that.
yeah, you have to let them go outside and get some bumps and bruises, and it's the same with other kinds of decisions as well. So, Leah, because you keep smirking while he's telling all these Bitcoin stories. Where are you guys on? You know, where are you on this journey? Are you just supportive? You go off and play your silly Super Banana games, and I'm going to do the real work around the house with the kids. I mean,
I'm raising my own super bananas
there you go.
because they're worth more than Bitcoin.
That's true.
There you
Kids-
go. There
yeah,
you
why are
go.
you doing all the?
That's
Why
true.
saving all that Bitcoin doesn't do anything if you don't? Like, what's the point, right? The
Right.
purpose.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think that's.
So, yeah, my focus is on them a lot, but I love how the principles that Bitcoin encourages in people are the same ones that we want our kids to be able to live up to. Those kind of moral values that are encouraged through the stability of Bitcoin, through the all those different qualities of Bitcoin, the immutability and the verifiability and everything. And I think those are all things that that's important for our kids to be able to have, that in order to do well in the world. And so I guess for Jason, he's like a fanboy. He geeks out about Bitcoin and stuff. But I'm like, I'm teaching my kids and I'm implementing it and those principles for them, and he does as well. But it's more of my focus in teaching them because I'm the main homeschool parent, and then Jason comes in and he adds in his geeky perspective, which is always fun.
well, I noticed from like 2015, 2018, my reason for being in Bitcoin was I wanted to end the Federal Reserve. I wanted to replace the Federal Reserve with Bitcoin and dollars with Bitcoin, stuff like that. It was this very external I like to think of it as changing the world from the outside in. And I would go off about that for a while, and my lovely wife here would just be so patient with me, like, That's nice. That Yeah, sounds good."
You and the
And not
Fed,
really
I'll
say
teach the
much
kids.
else.
Got it.
Yeah. But then I listened to the audiobook of the Bitcoin Standard and went down that rabbit hole about things like time preference and stuff. And I realized how much Bitcoin can change all of us, change the world really from the inside out by working through us. When I shared that with my wife, with Leigh Ann here, that's when it was like, okay, this is more interesting. I was seeing more connection, I guess. Still, she was being her practical self that she always is. And I was still being my geeky self. I just had a new reason to geek out about Bitcoin, a better reason, in my opinion. But I always like to say I came into Bitcoin for the political revolution, but I stayed for the personal revolution, or so for the change from the inside out. But yeah, that's definitely where I saw her be more, I guess, more accepting of Bitcoin. You were always accepting of it, but yeah, no, just kind of engage more with it.
Got it.
May
Got
I
it.
tell the story about March 2020
Yeah, I thought you would.
as an
It sounded like
example?
you were
I like
leading
I like
to-
how he asked permission before. Like, Leon, you got him so
I don't
well
wanna
trained.
embarrass
Nice job.
I just don't want to embarrass her, at least not too much. But so March of 2020, anyone who's been in Bitcoin long enough will know what happened then. All the stuff that happened in 2020 was getting started, and there was a big crash. Bitcoin's price went down from somewhere in the 9,000s to somewhere in the 4,000s in a single day. It was pretty crazy. Well, I came home from work that day and I just told her, "Hey, sweetie, so I have some news. Not necessarily good or bad. It just is news." Like, look, I was really nervous about this. But now I've been talking her ear off about Bitcoin for like 5 years by this point, or 4.5 years or so. And so I showed her the chart, said, "Yeah, so this happened today, and yeah, so what do you think?" Her response was, "So what you're telling me is we can afford to buy more now." And yes, exactly. That's exactly my response. Listeners don't know what Scott's doing, but yeah, I was cheering inside. I think I just sighed and looked her straight in the eyes and said, "Oh, I love you." That's what I said. But yes, inside I was just like, "Yes, yes."
I thought you were gonna go like,
Oh,
she's like, so you just cut her child savings in half, is what you're telling. Like, that's where I thought you were going, and then
Yeah.
when you said that, I was like so
Yeah.
excited. I'm like, yes.
Yeah. Granted, this is like that meme where it's just like the woman crying, and it's like Bitcoin just dropped 20%. I'm only 349% up, like that. And it was a bit like that, but that wasn't what she was caring about. She saw it like, well, this is a dip we can buy, right? Like, and in such a practical way, never geeking out about Bitcoin like I do, and yet still seeing it for what it actually is. I'm like, oh, mwah, yes, like chef's kiss. Yes.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's a great story. Why would you be embarrassed? That's awesome.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever been embarrassed to that story. That's good.
That's a badge
Okay.
of honor.
But,
It tells people how smart you are. You not a lot of people
Oh,
don't
thanks.
get that at all. Even after you tell them, they don't tell them.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I know there have been so many things that we've been through, and hard things happen after a hard time, and we've moved so many different places, especially like early on in our marriage and stuff. And through it all, we were able to get through it, and I feel like it was God's hand in our life guiding us along the way. And so I've always had that trust in God, even when Jason had a harder time with it. I was just saying, no, God's going to get us through this, so it's going to be okay. And so with that perspective, when he says that, I'm like, well, it dipped for a reason, and God, all things happen for a reason. God knows that was going to happen, and he knows that we're going to be able to put more in it now. And so we can trust him with it because all that we have is from him anyway. And so he's making that possible for us to save more.
Wow.
And that's yeah, to save more. That's actually the way we've seen Bitcoin since 2016 or something like that. It's just a savings account, not a trading vehicle or anything else like that. That's just how we save, which goes to the point that a lot of Bitcoiners have made that in a fiat system, you have to invest just to survive. You have to put money in housing, you have to put money in the stock market, you have to play all these games in a perfectly fiat, not fiat world, in a non-fiat world, in a perfectly Bitcoin world, when everyone's on a Bitcoin standard, you just save. You spend less than you earn. You just save the rest for a rainy day, and you win.
Yeah. Do
That's
your
it.
kids
Life is so simple.
know the story you just told? Do your
No,
kids?
they were right there when it happened. Yeah,
Okay.
it was here at our dinner table.
Think about
where
what
we
you
had that
taught them.
conversation.
Think about that
Yeah.
lesson, like how valuable that lesson is. So not only about Bitcoin, but how the relationship between the spouses, and how to handle difficult news and what could have been difficult news and things like that. That's a really powerful. That's a really powerful thing for them to witness. That you're not going to be able to teach in a textbook somewhere. They saw mom and dad. This is what happened, and then they now understand the implications of that, and you can't take that away from them. That's their part of their framework on the world, and that's a really, really powerful thing.
Yeah.
So
Goes back to what I was saying, that you can't learn by regurgitation. You can't learn by just uploading kung fu
No.
into someone's brain. There
Right.
has to be the practice, the time, the experience. It's fun to imagine in a
Yeah.
movie like The Matrix, but no, there has to be those all the nuances of different
yeah,
things. And so, yeah, I've sometimes imagined, what will my kids with their spouses, what will their lives be like when they come up against something difficult? What will their minds process from memories like that and many others? That all I hope and pray will just make it so that their relationships with their spouses and with their children will be even better than what we've enjoyed.
that's beautiful. Here's what I propose. I want to see if is there anything that we didn't cover about your experiences, that you, a particular challenge or a resource or something that you wanted to share. And then before we sign off, Jason, I wanted you to give a chance just to, if you could just, because it is a Bitcoin show, just touch on a couple of the projects that are in your scope
Okay.
your scope right now. So, did we miss anything that if you were sitting down with people who are just about to start, a couple that was just starting their family, and they were on the fence about homeschooling, is there anything we missed that you would want to share with them?
Yeah, I know I talked to Tali about this last night when we were talking, but there are a lot of people who are considering homeschooling, and they when I talk to them about it, or maybe they're not considering it, but they know it's an option, but they've talked themselves out of it because they think it's going to be too hard. And I'm like, oh, I know that feeling because that was me. And what I found is that homeschooling is what you make it. You don't have to go with someone else's curriculum. Now, I think a lot of people who are going into it new and they don't know what to do. They're like, I don't know about resources. I don't know where to look for things. They'll just go to a full curriculum that they find someone suggests to them or something, so that they have it all planned out for them. Now, if that's the way that they want to go, there's one that I know of that is basically you open up the book and you start and you do the lesson for that day. So there's almost like basically no prep work at all. And it also integrates different subjects into like their literature courses, their language arts and phonics and science. And they also have their language arts is free from K through 8th grade, and their math is free from K through 7th grade. And that's the good and the beautiful curriculum, which is,
Which lives up to its name.
yeah, it's really good. So it's Christian based, and it was started by a mom who saw the kinds of books that her children were bringing home from school that they were assigned to read, and she was like, these are not good books. These have all kinds of mess in them, even like ones for like early grade schoolers, like second and third grade. She's like, they should not be reading these things. They do not have high moral value and good character in them. They're not good examples for my children. And so she started slowly putting together this curriculum, first focusing on language arts and then branching out. And so now it's basically a whole curriculum where they're still developing some of the high school stuff. But yeah, a lot of it they provide for free. And so that's a good one if you're looking for a full curriculum where you hopefully won't feel overwhelmed with it, because you don't have to do prep for the lessons. You just open up the book and there it is. Or the PDF, which you can download from free on the site. One story I'd like to share, also shared this with Talia last night, about my oldest son. So I was teaching him how to read. I had learned from, I had been a substitute teacher before I had him. And within substitute teaching, I learned about a resource called starfall.com. I don't know if you guys have heard of that. Okay, this one is so good, I think. It was actually, so it's a nonprofit, and it was started up by a man who, when he was a child, he had dyslexia and he had a hard time learning how to read. And so he started up starfall.com as a curriculum to help children. It's interactive and it's engaging. They originally had it just as a website, but then as apps became more popular, it's available as an app now as well. If you want access to, there's a lot of the resources that are available, especially within the language arts, and this goes through 5th grade, I think. So K through 5th grade, and it's language arts and music and math, and most of the language arts, if not all of it, is totally free. And then it's $35 a year if you want to pay into it, because it's a nonprofit. They don't ask for that much for access to all of their resources. And so I had already known about this from substitute teaching. I had learned about it. And so that's what I started my first child on when he was learning to read. I just let him get on the computer and do stuff on Starfall, the different interactive activities that they have, and learning different phonics of different letters and everything. I feel like he taught himself how to read, that I didn't really have to do much at all. And it was amazing. Like one day when
I think you did more than you're giving yourself credit for, but yeah.
Well,
continue.
I don't know. I felt like I didn't do very much.
You found the right resource for
one
him.
day we go in.
It takes time to
we go
find the right
into-
resources, though. I mean, to Jason's point,
Yeah.
a huge part of what I saw Tali work on was she would spend hours and hours looking for resources, either online or at the library, or we're talking to other homeschooling moms. It's because you have so much flexibility. It actually is work to figure out how do you get through all the noise to figure out what's the right resource for your kids. So that actually
Right.
it's one thing to say I found the diamond. Yeah, but if you're the person who knows how to get the diamond, like that's a big deal. So it takes, to find the right tool, the right things, the right resource. So to Jason's point, give yourself credit
Starfall didn't work. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, well, Starfall didn't work as well with my other kids. I feel like I was like, oh, it's magic. It teaches them how to read, because I felt that way with my oldest. So then when it was taking longer for my other kids to learn how to read, I was like, what's wrong? It's not working as well. But I think for them, they still liked it, but they needed a little bit more one-on-one and interaction. And as I was patient with them, and let them, I think it's one of the things that helped me to go more toward the unschooling was seeing how they're learning differently. And if I try to push them too much, and then I get stressed out and they get stressed out, and then nobody's happy and they're not learning anything anyway.
I think it's beautiful. Look at I think about again. I'm not trying to beat up on. I know there's good people who are in public schools trying to teach. I'm not trying to bash that. But as a system, even if you have somebody with good intent, take out any kind of political agendas or things like that. If you are teaching 20 or 30 kids, you're going to have to pick a program and that's it. You're going to have to go with
Right.
it. Versus what you're describing, which is one-on-one. If this program works for you, then great. If it doesn't, I'm adjusting the program for you. If you don't have that as a kid, it's almost luck whether or not the program that has been chosen by whoever's doing the group teaching selects a method that you happen to work well with. Whereas what I hear you describing is this worked really well with kid number 1. Kid number 2, I had to adjust fire a little bit here, and we did this. And you're kind of guiding them depending on their particular needs, their learning styles, their learning, all the individual things. And I think that's really powerful. I just think it's not against, I'm not trying to bash on the public schools, but if you put 20, 30 or whatever number of people into a room, it's very unlikely they're all going to learn the same way, and you happen to pick just that one method that works for everybody. There's no way a teacher could possibly give one-on-one attention to 20 people. They don't have the time, they don't have the resources. And I think it's just, a parent loves their child, they're going to find what works for them. And there's a lot of choices out there. It takes time to find it, and then you just share it. Here's what worked for my kids, like you just did. Somebody else listens to that and they say, now they go try it. Someone will say, I tried it, didn't work with my kid. Okay, whatever. But if there's a parent out there that listens to it and it works, hey, like that's a big deal for them. You made a difference in that kid's life because they have the right resource. So a lot of layers to that. So
You were going to. She was still sharing about her second kid. So
Yeah, well, there's still more after Starfall. So that was starfall.com.
Yeah. Yeah, well, so I guess what I kind of transitioned into for I guess the next 4 after our oldest was searching for more early reader books. There was one really cute one and free ones, so you can print them off offline and you don't have to pay so much for some of the ones that you need to buy. There was one really cute one that starts out super simple, and they're called Icy Sam. And let's see, I have the link, but I don't have it in front of me. But
you can share it with me later, and then Scott, I can share it with you and put it in the show notes.
Yep. Anything you think of, just send it over. Yeah.
Cool.
Okay. Yeah, but the Icy Sam books are these really simple readers. They start out with 3 words, Icy Sam, and it's like this whole little story talking about this. It's the main character is this mouse, and he sees Sam, and Sam is a lion, and so he's like, "See, I see Sam." And the illustrations just tell everything about the story because Sam is sleeping. And the mouse goes and wakes him up. And then, of course, he's all angry and roaring. And he's like, Sam! He's running away from it.
Using very simple language, help them to learn basic vowel sounds. Like there'll be one book where like a whole bunch of like the or the ah, like Sam, kind of vowel sounds and stuff. So help them learn vowel sounds and consonants. This is for like the most basic early reader.
Yeah, and then they each build on each other, and so you're getting a little bit more. You'll have like all those words, and then you'll add like one or maybe two for the next book, and then it just builds on them. And so it's a really good one for a starter reader. And I found that that a lot of our kids like to have that, you know, instead of having the more interactive screen stuff, they liked having an actual book there where they could practice. They could practice the words, and they could just sit down sometimes and read them if they wanted to practice on their own, or they could practice with me. And so it made it a little bit more flexible and nice for those kids, and was better for them. And then for my fourth and fifth, it took them a little bit longer to even read than for my second and third. And so I was a little concerned for them, and that's when I decided I'm going to try out some of the Good and the Beautiful language arts curriculum. And so we would just open it up and we would do a lesson each day. And so we tried it out and we liked it, but it kind of like fizzled out, because then they started reading on their own after, I don't know, it was a few months. They started reading on their own, and I'm like, okay, they're good.
You also bring up a really good point there that sometimes, well, not sometimes, I think everyone will excel in certain areas, but then become, I guess, weak or need work in other areas. And that's perfectly fine. That is literally the story of every single human being. We're all like that. And so for any parents listening to this who their child is great at reading but not great at math, that was our first child. When he was young, he just started pouring through books, just voracious reader. But numbers and math, come on. Then you have people who are kind of the opposite. And don't worry about that. Just stay patient, keep working at it, and they'll get it eventually. We all have our different strengths and weaknesses, and so just, you know, strengths, weaknesses, and interests, I should say. And so just keep working with them along those interests, and they'll get there.
Yeah. And as you listen to their questions and answer their questions, and you really pay attention to the things that they're interested in, and then you will see these things that come up. It's like, oh, they're interested in this now. They're ready for this. And so you can start filling in those spaces as they show you, as they come up. You'll see the kind of things that they're ready for, and then you can fill those things in, and, you know, change gears to help them in the ways that they need it and that they're ready for.
Yeah, fun to watch, fun to guide.
Yeah, one of the things that we talked about last night, Leigh Ann, was that when we gauge where our kids should be, a lot of times it's because we're hearing other people's voices and their potential judgment of where our kids are how our kids are progressing. So if you recognize that, and then you just say that's their thinking, and my job is only to help my child thrive in the way he or she needs to thrive at the pace that works well for them, then eventually, as you said, everything is going to even out. But just recognize that when you start to feel anxious, like my child is 8 and she's not reading yet. And of course, you have to eliminate possibilities like maybe there's a learning disability or something where she needs extra help. But if she's just not there yet, just be aware that the voices you're hearing, they're other people's voices. So.
Right.
Very cool.
And it doesn't make them right.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. I think one of the things that gives people that idea is that there's, you know, the schools instituted the Common Core standard for schools, and the No Child Left Behind, so that all children are supposed to learn the same things at the same time and by certain ages. So there's this standard that the institution has set up, which is not taking into account the needs of the individual. But as homeschooling parents, we can have the intuition and the guidance ourselves to see what they need individually. And then from what I've seen, there is a higher retention rate of the information when you do it that way, because they're learning it when they're ready and when they're interested in
Yeah.
learning it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
To all Bitcoiners out there, I'll say, No Child Left Behind is socialism for education.
It is
But
horrible.
homeschooling is
Yeah.
capitalism of education.
Yeah, I think that the centralized stuff comes from the government, socialism, right? Everybody will learn this and that, and that's it.
Yep.
Versus you can't get more decentralized than the parents figuring out what's best for their kids.
Well, there's
And-
something.
Yep.
Sorry, something else we talked about last night. I want to bring up is if you see homeschooling as replicating public school at the home, then that's not what we're trying to do here. We're just doing it
Exactly.
completely differently. We're doing it by intuition. We're doing it by the child's readiness. We're doing it by the child's learning styles. You know, we're not trying to recreate public school system in the home because number one, why would we do that? And number two, it's inefficient. And number three, we have one teacher and multiple kids, and we don't have any administrators. We don't have secretaries. We're it. So we have to make everything happen. So don't think you have to replicate the system that we pulled our kids out of.
Mhm.
Right? It's not the
100%.
difference is not just the
Right.
location. So yeah.
Well, thanks, Leigh Ann, for sharing all that.
You-
I know you get more.
ahead.
Keep
Yeah.
going if you want. I don't know if we, I don't want to cut
Yeah,
you
I-
off. So,
Yeah, I was going to say that if you try to do it the public school way, you are going to feel overwhelmed. You're going to feel anxiety. You're going to feel stressed out. And when you are feeling that way, your child is going to feel that way as well. And that is an inhibitor to the whole idea of what homeschooling can be for you and your family when you allow you allow the goodness and truth and light and principles to just kind of flow through your life and let you know that this is what your children need, and you'll be out of tune with all of that if you're focused in the wrong place. And so when we're focused on our children and their individual needs and their individual learning styles, and we just find joy in getting to know them and how they learn, and then we can recognize what they most need, and we'll be in tune with them, and they will be happier, and they will want to learn. They won't get all, I don't want to go to school today. Why do I have to do more work?
Yeah.
They'll just be like they'll come up to us all the time asking us questions.
Yeah.
They want to learn. They
do.
They want to know. And I think that's such a natural thing for children that is stamped out of them when people are like, "Oh, you're asking me another question. Go away."
yeah. No, I think
That's
that's
not what we're
exactly right.
looking
The
There's
kids
actually-
love to learn. They do.
I have a book behind this called Laziness is a Myth. And I picked up the book because of the title, because I heard it so much when I was growing up. Even in my family, there is such an assumption that if a child doesn't want to do homework, it is because he or she is lazy, and that's just such a myth. It's just not true. Human beings naturally, you're never gonna have a baby who's too lazy to learn how to walk,
They love to learn.
right? Like,
Kids
have you
love to
ever
learn.
seen a
As you
baby
see-
who's too
so-
lazy to
so-
learn how to walk? Human beings want to advance themselves. That is
They-
a natural
they do.
progression. It's a
They
natural
do.
expression
Yes.
of being human. And so if you perceive them as being lazy, number one, you're really already hurting that relationship. And number two, your assumption is going to cause you to make decisions that's not going to be productive. And number three, it's just not true. Something doesn't fit, and then you call it, you give it a label, and your responsibility is handed away, right? If you say the child's lazy,
Well,
then it's not my fault.
I feel like it's also, you can make an analogy with the fiat system where they break something and then somehow it's your fault, right? It's a greedy capitalist or whatever. And you're like, wait a minute, we're not in a free market. And if you look at it, the schools, someone trying to say this kid doesn't like to learn. No, kids love to learn. The problem is the system. They don't like, and all those other things we were just listing out, the artificial timing, the subjects, the being confined in your seat and not being able to run around and being segregated by age and everything else. They don't like all that. That's not, and then here's how all the things you're forced to memorize and things that you don't think you're ever going to use again. That's what they don't like. The truth is, it's the type of system being forced on them that they're rebelling against. It's not they don't like learning. Kids fundamentally love to learn, and then you beat it out of them with the other system, right? So,
I think human beings in general, we innately want to learn, but yeah, like you just said, it gets beaten out of
gets
some
beaten
of
out of you. I think we're going to talk to you guys about it. We need to get together sometime and play like some board games together. I don't know if you guys do family board games. I'm very biased with board games because the fellowship and Leigh Ann, I don't know how much Jason told you. That's kind of my thing. I like to make games to help teach. So that's the dual thing. You get to have fun, you get the fellowship, but as you know, the educator in me wants to have something in there that's a little juicier if you want it. So we need to get together sometime to do that. I don't know next time we're going to be in your area or conference or whatever, but Jason, I got to can you just give two like I don't know if everybody knows like all the stuff that you're really into, and I think it's definitely worthwhile. They know a little bit about your background.
Okay, yeah, and I told a little bit about my Bitcoin story, but so I guess the other kind of stuff I do, all in the Bitcoin space, I am the ambassador concierge at Satlantis. So Satlantis, for all listeners who don't know, is a Nostr client. Now, Nostr, that's a whole other rabbit hole, the purple pill rabbit hole, not the orange pill one. But Nostr basically is a protocol, not a platform like Twitter and Facebook and stuff. It is a protocol like Bitcoin for your identity. Yeah, I guess, yeah, your identity on the internet for like your reputation, stuff like that. So you can have one sign in for a lot of different places. It's you're basically the identity layer of the internet. Anyway, so Satlantis is built on top of that. Satlantis itself is it's an app and website for travelers like nomads and communities like local communities. So like a community and travelers social app and super app is always another thing in there that it's like TripAdvisor and Facebook groups and Meetup.com and a bunch of other things all wrapped up into one. So all this like if TripAdvisor had more of a social function built into it, a bit like that. And all built on top of Nostr, so it comes with the added benefit of censorship resistance. And if you go from one Nostr app like Satlantis to another one like Primal or Damus or Amethyst, then all your followers and all your posts, all the people you're following, your profile, everything is already there waiting for you at all these different apps. It's the same identity. So anyway, so yeah, I work there at Satlantis as the ambassador concierge. I basically help the leaders of each of the cities that are listed on Satlantis, help them get up and going, and I'm kind of the ambassador for all the ambassadors, you could say. And I also help with a lot of the marketing and like the social aspect, like the Satlantis posts on like Twitter and Nostr. But also on the side, I am also the meetup organizer for our local Bitcoin meetup here near us, Chattanooga, Tennessee. If anyone listening to this is ever in the Chattanooga, Tennessee area on a third Saturday of the month, come visit us. You can also pop onto Satlantis, look up Chattanooga, and you can see our upcoming meetups, all the upcoming events that are listed there. Let's see, and then I think lastly I'll say I put together. Oh, sorry. 1-year-old in the background here. But I put together a book called 21 Questions, which is the top 21 questions all about Bitcoin. This book, I used to work on the same team as Satlantis. We were working on something called the Spirit of Satoshi. Excuse us.
No, you're fine. Authentic.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Big brother, you got him. So all right. Oh yeah, where I took the 21, not just most asked questions, not just like the FAQs of Bitcoin, but like the most important ones that anyone new to Bitcoin would need to know. I gathered those, and then I reached out to a bunch of different Bitcoiners, really well-known Bitcoiners. Safety Anonymous, I did reach out to him, didn't get any response back from him, but people like that. So Guy Swan, Jacques Mazuko, Alexander Svetsky, who I work for at Satlantis, Natalie Brunel, and a bunch of other like big names in the Bitcoin space, and I asked them these questions. They didn't answer all of them, but they each picked a few, like at least like 3 to 5 or something. Then Guy Swan picked like 18 to answer. But
that sounds like Guy.
Yeah. And so they all gave their answers to each of these questions, the ones that they chose, and I put it all together into a book. And then all 21 questions are answered by the Spirit of Satoshi. Now, the Spirit of Satoshi is an AI, kind of like ChatGPT, that is built and trained on everything ever taught, ever said, ever written about Bitcoin. So like the ultimate Bitcoin expert. And so it gives its answer, kind of culminating that in the book. And the book kind of had was made with one purpose, but then I discovered kind of a second purpose. I like to think of it as like there's the tip of the iceberg and then the rest of the iceberg underneath. The tip of the iceberg reason for the book, the purpose for it, is to teach people about Bitcoin. If there's a family member or a friend who starts asking questions, just hand them this book. They don't have to read from beginning to end. They can just flip to question 4 or question 19 or whatever, and find the question that they have. A lot of times we have questions in our mind we haven't really formulated, we haven't really articulated, but then we see it there as question number 8 or something. I'm like, oh, that I've had a question about that. Like I've been wondering that myself. But it doesn't just give an answer. It gives an answer from Giacomo Zucco, it gives an answer from Samson Mao, it gives an answer from Guy Swan and the Spirit of Satoshi. All these different angles, so then you get a different angle on the answer. But then that gets into the deeper purpose of the book. What happens when you understand Bitcoin? Now you started to get involved in the Bitcoin space, you've bought some Bitcoin, and you have another question that isn't talked about in the book, what I like to call question 22. Who do you turn to? There's a lot of other voices out there. There's a lot of noise. A lot of people in general cryptocurrency who aren't Bitcoin maximalists, but who are into like some of the other coins. I was going to say them by name, but now I won't. I don't want to give them any more spotlight than they already have. And so who are you going to turn to for answers? Well, those people will be eager to give you answers that are going to lead you very much astray. But I very carefully reached out to all these different Bitcoiners, like 16 or 17 different Bitcoiners who helped me write the book, who gave me all those different answers. That these people are well known in the space. They have a lot of proof of work, where they're very reliable. You can, I want to use this word carefully. You can trust them. I'm not saying trust blindly. No, still go and verify. But when you're brand new, these are the kinds of people to listen to. These are the kinds of people you should follow on social media. Mm-hmm. And so when something brand new comes up that wasn't even an issue earlier, some new development in Bitcoin or something, these are the people who have some of the best perspectives. Mm-hmm. And and so that's kind of the deeper purpose of it. It then points you to who you can listen to for the rest of it. So I did that. I created that book last year, so it came out in April 2024. Then I'm currently working on the second book of that, and I actually have a plan to do a whole bunch of 21 questions books. Oh, and my wife was kind enough to get a copy. I know listeners won't be able to see it, but it's
well, we'll have a link on that one. So
yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah, it's available on Amazon. 21 questions. But I'm working on the Nostr edition of it. So the same plan, no Spirit of Satoshi this time, but the same format. I'm reaching out to a bunch of people who are well known in Nostr, who know their Nostr stuff. These are like the developers and programmers and famous people on it and things like that. People like that who and asking them the top 21 questions about Nostr. In the future, I plan to make more of these 21 questions books. 21 questions about homeschooling, for example. 21 questions about like natural health or and diet and eating right. 21 questions about self-defense, or about parenting, or about just whatever topic it is, especially if it's a topic that has to do with sovereign individualism, a person really relying less on government and on other outsourcing things. No, in-source, bring it in, and if you're new to that whole topic, well, here's a great book to help you get started. That from all these different experts in the space, all giving their own answers.
Yeah, I love the theme. I love that. I could see that playing out. Well, guys, you guys were wonderful. Don't hang up. We're gonna stop the recording, but you guys stay right there. Thank you so much for sharing with everybody.
We don't need to seek trust when we can see proof. It is real-time consensus that aligns us to evolve. This is how, amidst uncertainty, our lives continue to grow when we uphold our own rules. fuels, we preserve our own worth and defend our own voice, which lets the true market emerge. The strength of the design lies in each of our participation, since we are the nodes that channel our energy end to end. As we claim responsibility to uphold our own rights, we radiate the power that brings our truth into light. And when that dawn of light touches all parts of the globe, and it ripples throughout society, and it returns us the hope that becomes the power that sparks humanity to thrive, that same power that fuels the creation of the mind. And when our mind and our money are truly set free and they transcend the limits of past boundaries, now knowing becomes owning and ideas become wealth. What happens now? We can all push to expand the edges of our existence. It is through evolution when things are the hardest. As we hang for the light, we have to push through the darkness. It is in these moments we do what we do best. We take the chaos and the darkness and use our power to create. It is in these moments when we're all in alignment and our freedom of difference ascends us to our highest amidst the depth of it all. Know that hope is not gone. It is always darkest before dawn.